Your first game on is a generational performance, hitting the best clip of your life. Your next game, though, not as good. You probably ended up thinking to yourself, ugh, I can't be consistent. But what if your idea of consistency was wrong? I asked, what's consistency to you? And I found that the replies to this question are incredibly varied, and many of the answers fundamentally misunderstand what consistency actually is. Those answers were essentially saying, consistency is playing around my peak every day, or never making errors. But these perspectives are incredibly unhealthy, and they're based on misconceptions that I want to break down in this video. First, let's look at why people start thinking this way. I think it's obvious. With a massive focus on self-improvement recently, the use of statistics and numbers to measure progress has become incredibly common. A perfect example is aim trainers. You play a scenario for a minute, you get a score. You can instantly see if you have a new personal best or not.
Yes!
There's also tracker apps for any competitive game. After a match, you'll get a rating based on your performance, and it'll put you in a certain percentile or give you a score out of 1,000 for how close to perfect you played. This becomes incredibly harmful. The human brain is designed to latch onto numbers, and we're built to chase the things that give us dopamine and to avoid or even negatively ruminate upon things that don't. It all becomes very binary. If the numbers go up, it feels great, success. If they don't, it's a failure. I'll take this further with an example. Let's take a person with a Grandmaster Kovac score. They're super proud of this score and they think to themselves, wow, I'm Grandmaster. However, as soon as the numbers aren't matching this Grandmaster standard that they've set in their head, they start feeling like they failed or that they're inconsistent or not performing as they should be. Clearly, this is an unhealthy mindset to develop, and let's zoom out, because I think it becomes far easier to see why. This Grandmaster score is their best ever performance, an outlier after thousands of sessions on this scenario. When looking at it, doesn't it sound a bit silly that they should be performing at their best always? Or that their skill level is determined by just that one score? Here's a healthier way to look at it. We'll add some more elements to the graph to measure their performance longer term, and let's look at sessions instead of single plays. This blue line shows their personal best, or their skill ceiling. This red line shows their lowest score in a session, and their green line is showing their average performance in a session. As you can see, the player's lowest and average score per session is always going up over a long term. Their lowest score got better every time they played, even if they weren't hitting a new PB. In fact, if we remove the blue line entirely, this player is clearly improving, and it's really easy to see. Anyone will say, wow, this is great, consistent improvement. But then, why was this person upset with themselves? Well, they were looking at it wrong. If we add back the blue line and remove the other two, this looks like their improvement is incredibly stagnant. A few random jumps here and there, but mostly long plateaus with no progress for long periods of time. Whilst it's amazing to appreciate your peaks, and you absolutely should, the main point I'm making here is that to assess skill level or consistency, you shouldn't look at only your very best.
But Anima, how are pro players playing at their peak all the time?
I hear you ask, and they're not. Let's remember what we just talked about and apply it here. We'll take a Valorant pro player. They still have a skill ceiling and skill floor just like anyone else, but relative to an Ascendant player, the pro player's skill floor is far higher than the Ascendant player's skill ceiling. However, if we go to their trackers and take away their ranks, their stats are really similar, so I don't think it's fair to make any conclusions about who's consistent and who isn't. Secondly, I think this comment shows another massive reason why this misconception even exists in the first place, and it comes down to expectation problems. Just like the statistics from aim trainers, social media has clips and montages showing pros making ridiculous plays week in, week out that you and I can only imagine doing. But this isn't necessarily them peaking. Because their skill floor is so high, even their worst moments can look magical compared to most players. Let's also not forget that this is the pro player's job. They play the game for 8 hours a day, at least. It's almost impossible not to rack up clips if you're that good with that amount of playtime. The point that I'm making with this is that the standards for what a good performance is for you become extremely warped. A constant comparison is now running in your brain between what you and the pros can do, and up against these standards, 99.99% of players are not going to be good or consistent. Hopefully you understand why constant peak performance isn't the correct way to think about consistency. So now, let me help you reframe it and try to think about this in a healthier way. First, performances are something you should avoid thinking about to track progress, at least in the short term. If you want to think about your performances, detach yourself from the daily wins and losses and refer back to the examples we talked about earlier in the video. Think more about your long-term improvement and your skill floor going up over time. But more importantly, defining consistency. I think it should be entirely about the effort you're putting in, how you do it, and what your focuses are. The key point I'm making is that you need to prioritize things within your own control. I do want to say that this is a complex thing with a lot of layers, but I'm going to try and simplify and break down most of it. To be clear, this is something that you can start to do if you want to. First, distinguishing between the factors in a game, or maybe even in your life, that you can or cannot control will help you to notice what you can focus on. To elaborate, you can't control how you're going to feel when you wake up in the morning. You can't control how quickly you're going to improve. And you definitely cannot control what 9 other players in your ranked match are going to do. But despite these obstacles that you will have to accept and deal with, focusing on them is completely useless, as there are things that you can do. For example, you can create an exercise or sleep routine and stick to it. You can control how much time you're going to spend grinding, and you can create in-game goals that are personal to you and unaffected by external things like your teammates. Those are all examples of things that you can control and can also consistently measure yourself doing. Let's put it into a hypothetical to make it easier to understand. I want to ask you, which person do you think feels better and improves more? Person A spends 12 hours of playing ranked some days and none on others. They play matches purely on autopilot and get varying amounts of sleep. Whilst they're playing, they're thinking, damn, my teammates suck, or the enemy has a smurf, and they keep just looking at their teammates' ranks or their stats every game. They never review their games, they just hop into the next queue and forget about it. Person B plays 2 hours of ranked matches a day, with one simple focus such as, I'm going to work on fighting more confidently, or I'm going to rotate faster. And they don't think about what their teammates are doing or what the result of the game is. They quickly review their games after and only assess themselves based on how well they committed to their focus. More importantly, they have a regular sleep schedule as well. It's no mystery who's more consistent and happier overall, right? Person B has a simple routine, it's non-intense, and it creates a calm and focused environment for them. They spend a good few dedicated hours playing, and they end their sessions by measuring controllable factors that they have set up for themselves. They're able to show up every day and work on something. This is what ideal consistency looks like to me. Thank you for watching my first video. Massive thanks to my friend Sado who edited this video for me. Please check out his social medias below. If you have any feedback or suggestions on what you want to see next from me, please leave a comment as well. Before I end the video, I want to quickly note, please don't overthink the advice given at the end. You should try to develop a routine that prioritizes your health and that you can stick to. After all, your health matters most.